Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.
Talk. My name is Ahmad Chakaraka, and on Street Talk, we talk about political, social, and economics here in Michigan, the U.S., and abroad. Now, joining me tonight is Ms. Liz Taylor.
Good afternoon.
Great. It's been a while since you was.
A few years. It's been a few years. Yes, it has.
Yes. It's just so great to get you on again. We're going to make sure it won't be that long again.
Okay. All right. I look forward to it. Yeah, keep me busy.
Yes. Now, I noticed for the last year or so, reparation has come back in, and it's like...
people have talked about it.
Yeah.
Or mentioned it.
Yeah.
But they haven't discussed it.
Right. And I always, when me and Dennis and Chuck, we be talking, always go back to a book I read a few years ago, lady born in 1866,
Mm-hmm.
and in 1898, she tried to get reparation for the people who had been enslaved. And she died in Nashville in 1928, and still we look at it now and we just beginning to talk again about it.
Right. Certain people talk about it. It's not a normal conversation, and many people try to avoid it.
Okay.
Especially politically, they try to avoid it. And then we have some unrealistic black people who avoid it because they want to say America cannot afford to pay reparation. Well, why not? We're already paying it.
Yeah.
We're paying it for other people.
Yeah.
America paid a reparation for the Jews and the Japanese and some reparation for the Native Americans.
Yes.
Now, granted, all of those should have had some kind of repair. Reparation means to repair the harm that was done to someone politically, socially, or whatever. Especially if it was something that was caused not by them, but by an authority.
Right.
Okay, so for reparations that paid the Jews, that was a horrible Holocaust.
Yes.
Nobody should have to go through that type of a situation: genocide, Holocaust, death, having to eat your own people to stay alive, eating rats and all that, but whatever it took to stay alive. That was horrible.
Yeah.
But it was a matter of 10 to 20 years. Then the Japanese had to have reparation because of the World War. Okay, Native Americans because they were devastated because people from the other worlds, some European and other places came over and took their land and destroyed and annihilated their people and killed and destroyed their culture or attempted to. Now they live in most cases, they live in the most horrible type of conditions, but at the same time, their reparation has been given back to them in the form of some of the tribes who are are experienced enough to get something, they're getting money back from the casinos, from bingo, and they're getting free schooling, some to that effect. That's a repayment. Black people have been bonded, hurt, maimed, lynched, and destroyed for over 600 years. We say 400 because it was 400 years written in history.
Yes.
But then there was the segregation of 200 years. And then there was the lynchings after the proclamation of emancipation. And so when you look at that, they only want to recall people of color as being enslaved. And then they want to remind you of all the slavery that went on during the biblical times. Biblical slavery was bondsmen and workers, or individuals who were captured in war. And so as a result, for instance, the way the Romans did slavery is that if they took over a country, they would take some of their best men and put them in the army, number one, and train them, and that's on-the-job training where they make you dependent on them. And then they would take some of their people, men, women, and children, and make them bonds people or slaves to their high up individuals. And in doing that, you as a country is not likely to come back and jump on this country and try to attack them because your people are there. So those were the slaves enslaved during the times of Jesus Christ's time. Even when he said in his parables and things that during the time of Jesus Christ, he would remind people how you treat a slave. You treat him like a worker and a human being. But in the United States of America, enslavement meant the most terrible thing in the world. If you was going to be a slave, you were going to be treated like a dog. And a dog, but a dog then was treated pretty bad. Nowadays, a dog is more important than a human being. You go to prison for slapping a dog, you know? Whereas they can do what they want to do to you, and they says, oh, well, no big deal. He can take that. So those are the reparation now. When we talk about reparation, I want my 40 acres and my mule. But that's not even a payment for me.
No.
But if you give me the 40 acres and a mule, I want the 40 acres and a mule, time the interest that I would have had back in the day, plus the interest that I should be getting now, and the late payments that you owe me from the government, I would have a decent home. I wouldn't have not to worry about a grocery store in my neighborhood. I wouldn't have to worry about where I'm going to live. And I wouldn't have to worry about the political strife that we're going through right now.
As I said, we got back on reparation a year or so ago when we really got back to it. But John Conyers, Mr. Conyers, it took him till 2015 before he could even get anybody in Washington to even look at the thing,
Right, because you have people like the GOP groups who, when they get stuff like that, they put it down and they say, we're not going to even look at it. We're not going to look at it. They did not think about it at all when Obama was in. They did when Bush was in. It was not a discussion. The only reason, in my opinion, that reparation is an issue now is because you have a conscious person that is not necessarily politically correct, but he is spiritually correct. And in his mind, as a Catholic, he believes that there are certain ways to treat people so that he can maybe get his Catholicism to get him to where he wants to be, because he himself has gone through a lot. Because back in the day when Kennedy was a president, he was Catholic, and that was unheard of to have a Catholic lead America. A Catholic, a black person, a Jew, a Native American, Hispanic. No way. You had to have what they thought of as a lily white background. Well, let's just look at that. Let's go back to the Proclamation of Emancipation. When you go back to the Proclamation of Emancipation, there were actually 3 known versions of the proclamation. The first version of the Proclamation of Emancipation actually freed serfs, orphans, and indentured servants. All of those were whites that came from Europe.
Yes.
So right now when they're talking about an ex-slave, they're only talking about people of color. But the person sitting next to you that is professing to be Caucasian or white, which I say have pink and red skin, they are actually descendants of those who came over on the Nina and the Pinta Maria and so on and so forth.
Right.
And you think about it now, to be a serf, for first of all, you have already been cheated out of your land because you're a farmer coming from Europe, and the landlord there has demanded that you pay them taxes.
Yes.
You have no clue of what they're talking about because you can't read and write.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Can't read and write, and so they demand that you pay X amount of money. You pay X amount of money, or else you owe them your service time to work for them, so they can take your land and take your children and take you where you want to. Those were the serfs. And the indentured servants were those individuals who said, okay, if you take me across the ocean, or if you do this for me, I'll repay you. And the way I repay you, I will do so much work for you, or will do a certain type of work for you. Now these two, they were unskilled people, uneducated mostly. So for that, then you got the cream of the crop bringing the uneducated, unskilled white people over to work for them. And you think about it, the cream of the crop have always been lazy, do-nothing bootleggers who don't always got somebody else to do the job for them. And so they really didn't have any skills. So they would bring people who were accustomed to working with their hands, who had the intelligence to learn how to do things, to even shoe a horse. Okay. And so when they get over here, the reason that so many of them almost starved to death is because they didn't have a clue on how to till the land, how to prepare and make food for themselves. The Native Americans had to help them with that. Instead of repaying them, they enslaved them or killed them off. And the people who came over to do the jobs for them, they made sure that just like the sharecroppers, once the proclamation was done, they made sure like the sharecroppers, when you're sharecropping, so it's a wonderful idea. I'm going to work this land, and I'm going to make this money, and I'm going to buy my freedom. Bull stink. What you're going to do, you're going to owe him for all the clothes that you have to wear. You owe him for the property, for the hut that you live in, for the horse that you use. And if you don't have a horse, you owe him for the chicken who laid the egg. You owe him for the seeds that you got. You got a handful of seeds. Next year, you got 2 handfuls of seeds. It rained and the heat came up and it destroyed your crop. Now you got to get some more. How do you know the heat didn't come in the night and destroy your crop? So you forever owe this so-called cream of the crop people. And in owing them forever, that means you will never ever pay your way out. So the indentured servant and the serfs, who were white Europeans, were going to be indebted to those individuals from England, France, and Spain, and Russia forever, and their children's children. If you go back and go to the internet, they will tell you what the serfs were. You go back now to the old books, they'll tell you the indentured servants. Then they'll tell you about the orphans that they also brought over here. Orphans would never be free because they had no relatives. There was nobody to fight for them. So the first part of the Proclamation of Emancipation said they would release those individuals from bondage. Now, they thought they were doing a really great deal because this Republican president did just that. And in releasing them, many of them went to the North. That automatically changed the manpower for the North. And changing the manpower automatically changed the war of South against North against the South. And when they rewrote it the second time, 1863, then at that point they said, we're only going to free the people who are held in bondage in the succeeding states. Because we want to cement the states back together. We want to keep the states as the United States. There was only a few of them anyway. And so when we keep them as the United States, we're going to free the blacks that's in there. But some of the blacks were already forced to fight with the Confederate. But so when they freed those black, there was 200,000 that was still left in captivity. And there were 80 million in the northern states that were already fighting against the South that were in captivity. So that these individuals that was freed in 1863, they were the ones who also said, I'm not going to go and stay here. I want my freedom. Some of them went to the North. Again, changing the manpower, which again changed the side of the war. Okay, now, They're going to give you something. That's how they were supposed to be repaying us. So, but they did pay them for working and being soldiers. But if the white man got $7, the black man got $2.
Right, yeah.
If the Native American got more.
Yeah.
And then when they won certain portion of the wars, they got nothing because they were eliminated with friendly fire.
Yeah.
Okay, still doing that bull stink.
Oh,
still friendly fire. So the final thing was this president, Republican, decided that he wanted to make the whole thing better. We're now got to win a war, a portion of the war, so that we can free everybody. And that's what they did. When they won the portion of the war and freed the rest of the community, then that's when they sent Granger down in 1865 to say, let the rest of them go.
Yeah.
Now, in 1865, that's when we developed the term Juneteenth.
Yeah.
So let's go back to reparation.
Yeah.
How are you going to repair 400 years of enslavement, years of this segregation, and all of the time that we are constantly fighting, you are always treating us like the gum on your shoe.
That's it.
But we are paying taxes.
Yeah. Like
and the taxes that you use is paying back the reparation. Come on.
Yeah.
You're repairing the Jews, the Japanese, the Native American from tax money that we pay.
Yeah.
But we don't get any of it.
No.
Okay, so we'll go along with that for now. So now that we've got this, you got the 13th and the 14th and the 15th Amendment, correct?
Yeah.
Which says what? You can be free as long as you don't commit a crime.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do? Here comes the black codes and the Jim Crow law.
Oh, yeah.
And so they still exist. Do you hear about kids that are still being stopped?
Oh, yeah.
Walking in East Lansing or Okemos?
Yeah.
Only black kids, because the white kids can walk right past them and peep over and see, what are they doing with him?
Yeah.
It's the white kids can keep walking, how come I can't?
Yeah.
By the same token, now think about this, Ahmad. The good jobs that are available, or even the beginning jobs that are available, in order to get those jobs, you have to have a driver's license, ID, etc.
Yep.
So if your driver's license has been suspended and they have a huge fee on you to repay that driver's license suspension, and you don't have a job, you can't pay it.
No.
Even though the job that you're applying for does not require you to drive. Why do you have to have a driver's license?
Right.
Black codes. Black codes.
Yeah.
Bet you the white person can work through it.
Oh, yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, it don't make no sense, but
that's the way they go back to saying why you are not worthy to be repaired, because you got all of these criminal cases. Let's go to the part with, let's just use George Floyd and all of the people that has been in the last 2 years killed by the police. What they say is they have a criminal history. Criminal history. That means they've served their time, they've paid their dues, and the crime was not for murder, rape, incest, mass murder, none of that.
None of that.
But that's a criminal history. And the person who killed you had a criminal history too, but they were exonerated because they were wearing a badge.
Yeah, yeah.
Or they were white.
Yeah, look at the guy who killed George Floyd.
Right. He never thought in his wildest dream that he would be prosecuted.
Right.
But look at the dumb police officers, not just the white ones, the black ones too, who are paying their money to the police union.
Yeah.
That union is the one that got him out, and he had to go back in and got those other people out. And also that 17-year-old boy, look at how many people come together to put $2 million to bond that 17-year-old boy out after he shot 3 people, killing 2 of them. And he wasn't even supposed to carry a gun.
No.
Police union and people. So that tells you how many people are still out there after you.
Yeah.
How many people are still out there negatively thinking, why do they hate me? Is it because I am a threat to them? Or is it because they fear my intelligence? Or is it because they don't know what to do And they are so backwards, they don't know that they are descendants of serfs and indentured servants. They too were slaves. They should be my friend because I got rid of mine.
Yeah.
And I mastered the language. And not only that, anything you put one of us in, who comes out the champion? If you let me in there, I will destroy the negative stuff.
Yeah.
1 ounce of my brain, when you allow me to use it, will crush the average person's neck because we use it.
Yeah.
So our history has been erased, stolen, hidden, and omitted. And they're trying to omit it again by denying the opportunity to do diversity training and historical information to the police and in the schools right now. Right now. So when you stop to think about it, you would have never known that it was a black woman and her group that put the rocket on the moon. Well, why wouldn't you know it? Hidden. Stolen. Omitted.
And now every once in a while, some will get out. Oh, blacks was the one done this, you know.
But they don't believe it.
Oh no.
I did a workshop at one of the state buildings not too long ago. In that workshop, I used Granville Woods. You're probably familiar with Granville Woods, and Thomas Edison.
Okay.
Granville Woods was called Black Edison.
Okay.
In reality, Edison should have been called White Granville Woods. Because Edison had a hearing disability, and he also had difficulty keeping a job. And he was working as a young man as a footman, or which is another word for a porter, on a train that Granville Woods was working on. And on that train, Granville Woods invented a carbon voice machine to allow him to talk to the engineer from the caboose. And he also invented an activity that would allow him to do Morse codes on multiple over the lines.
Okay.
And so when Thomas Edison lost that job and other jobs, and then he opened a plant, he was funded by John D. Rockefeller to come up with an electric light. And at the same time, he was working with Alexander Graham Bell to come up with the voice machine that he saw, heard, and knew of from Granville Woods. So the electric light and the Morse codes over the wires was supposed to be a one line, but then he came back with the 2 or 3 lines that Granville Woods had already done. So he called it a telegrapher, which was a telegraph, which Granville Woods had already made 333 lines of. So in the back of that building was a man by the name of Louis Latimer, who worked with a guy from Germany to put the filament inside a globe. That's what they call the light bulb, a globe. And that globe then was to light the streets of New York. That's what John D. Rockefeller commissioned him to do. And that was to get rid of the whale oil lamps and the gas lamps, because people were getting injured with the whale oil lamps would break, that oil would burn people, or the gas would create a problem as well. And so Thomas Edison then had these 2 guys working on this one globe. The German told him that the machine and the stuff that he was using was inadequate, and it wasn't allowing the arch of the electricity to last long enough, and it was burning out the wires. But he wouldn't listen. So the German guy left and started GE by himself. And so Louis Latimer continued to stay back there, and he ended up with 2, if you look inside, 2 little thin filaments that are tungsten steel with a little wire that goes over that. Still use them, that cause the light bulb, which came out as a globe. And that's how they put the streets of New York, lit them up, by this man Louis Latimer. Who was the one to expose that? Well, Bush Beer Company. They're the ones that sent me the information on the history of Louis Latimer. And then they go back and show where Granville Woods actually sued Thomas Edison and Alexander Graham Bell twice for his projects of the voice machine and the telegraph. And during that time, it was unheard of a black man suing white folks for anything and living. And not only did he sue them, he won it. It's in the law books. So they can't erase it because, you know, they keep that forever in the law books.
Right.
So, and then on top of that, then Granville Woods do the electric switch, the galvanized battery. Where's a car going to go without the battery?
No place.
You know, where's the car going to go without the engine stuff or the gear shift and all of that?
Right.
Those are people of color
Yes.
who invented these. Our history is erased,
Oh, yeah.
hidden,
Yes.
ignored,
Yeah.
and omitted, so that when they erase and annihilate the fact that they themselves are descendants of serfs and indentured servants, then they want to say, you poor thing, you are a slave. But remember this, the slaves that was over the black people who were in Africa had a language, a written language. And when they came back over here, brought and forced to come over here, the reason that they made you drop your name and wouldn't let you learn how to read is because you'd find out all about yourself.
Yep.
And where'd you find it out from? From the book that they used as their book of learning. They used the Bible as the book of learning when they first came over here from England. Wonderful. That book of learning has the first people in there was Moses, a Hebrew. Jesus Christ, a Hebrew. Moses, going through the rushes, went to the Egyptian woman, a black woman. How else was he able to hide in that Pharaoh's area? The Pharaoh was called the king of the sun. People in Egypt and Ethiopia and Cush was called people whose skin been kissed by the sun. What does that mean?
Yep.
I'm not white. I'm not pink.
Yep.
I'm brown and black.
Yeah.
Stolen,
Yeah.
hidden,
Yeah.
and omitted. And they're trying to omit it again by denying the opportunity to do diversity training and historical information to the police and in the schools right now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
So when you stop to think about it, you would have never known that it was a black woman and her group that put the rocket on the moon.
Oh, yeah.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you're too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.